Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to tonight's special committee of the whole meeting. This meeting is called to order. I kindly ask our distinguished deputy clerk to please take the roll call.
Bowering?
Here.
Maliki?
Here.
Furnish?
Here.
Kilburg? Here. Kosarog?
Kasserag here.
Reinecke?
Here.
Marks?
Here.
Mayor?
Here.
Paschke?
Here.
Palmquist?
Here.
We thank you in advance for enduring what might be a warm evening, but we have kept this room dark and shades shut all day, so if you do get warm, tough. It's just the way it is, man. So we have a very special agenda this evening. Item 1 is to introduce and swear in Tommy, Geneva Police Department's comfort dog. Isn't that cool? Now, we have some very, very special guests with us this evening. I would like to turn the podium over to those responsible for raising and training Tommy. This young lady in the second row, do you want to come up?
Sure.
And there's a beautiful story behind Tommy's name as well. So,
First, I would like to say thank you to the mayor and the rest of the committee for having us here, and for giving us the opportunity to provide such a wonderful dog to this city. I think Tommy is going to do great things. I know from some of the information we got from Brad already that Tommy's already helped children at an accident site, and there's just so much more that he's going to be able to do. And statistics just show that having a dog around is not only good for your residents, but it's also good for the staff. And we are just so thrilled to be able to put him here. And we're also very thrilled to be able to be in this business. We have probably 15 schools on our list waiting for facility dogs. We have one dog that we placed at a 911 center. We have another dog that is going to go to the New Lenox Fire Department. And so it's really becoming a growing business for us to be able to do this. And I know you mentioned Tommy has a great story, and he does have a great story. So one of our fundraising opportunities is that you can donate to our organization and name a dog in honor or memory of someone. And so one of our supporters, they donated to name Tommy after my dad, who passed away. And I come from a law enforcement family. My uncle worked for CPD. I have cousins that were attorneys. My son is currently in the Chicago Police Department. He's a member of the SWAT team. So this is really, it's really touching and emotional for me to be able, see, I'm gonna cry.
that's
To be able to see him
good.
placed here. And we couldn't have done it without Eric and Audrey and Maria, who donated and who also raised him. So they gave up a good year, 15 months of their time to raise this dog and then give him back to a community. So we work on the premise of service dogs. That is really how we work. We train them like a service dog. We want them to be good citizens. We want them to be friendly with everyone, and we need them to have good manners. Nothing less than we would expect from the citizens of our community. So what I would like to do, though, if you don't mind, is turn it over to the Fields family just for a moment so they can tell you a little bit about Tommy from the time they got him at 8 weeks of age and what their journey has been like to see him come to fruition. I think it's important. I think it's an important part of their story.
Absolutely it is.
So-
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, and by all means, reference the name of the organization, because,
Oh, I did not.
yeah, our council members are loaded. They'd like to make some donations.
Well, good. Great. So we are Healing Hearts Comfort Dogs.
There you go.
And we are based out of Tinley Park, Illinois. But that doesn't limit us to the mileage that we'll go. And we happen to be lucky enough that Chief found us and reached out to us, and so here we are today. So, thank you.
Welcome.
So this is Eric. Eric received Tommy when he was 8 weeks old.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
And Eric has a backstory too.
Yeah,
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
quite a few backstories.
Yes, you do.
So anyway, my daughter Maria, my wife Audrey, my older daughter Tasha, we got Tommy at 8 weeks, and we went to southern Illinois to pick him up. I met some young girl at a park, and we said, "Is that ours?" She said, "Yep." So we grabbed Tommy, and from day one it was love at first sight. He is just has so much energy and so much love. And the way that we knew that he was destined for greatness, to be able to bless people in the community, was when we'd take him out in our neighborhood, and we'd go for walks, and immediately kids would just pour out of the homes, and we could never get our walk done. It was just always Tommy, 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 and he just related so well to them. As he grew up, we were taking him to soccer games and so many different community events, just to get him used to people and his surroundings. And one of the events we took him to was at the Chicago Police Department, down by Sox Park, and because we had I know Kim had his eye.
You are an oldie but goodie. You call it Sox Park still? Yeah, I can't call it anything else but Comiskey, exactly, or Sox Park.
This is blonde.
Very good.
So anyway, the way that he engaged with the officers there and the staff and just that whole community, there was just nothing but love back and forth. And that was Kim's desire of her heart the whole time, is that he would be deployed in law enforcement somehow, some way, somewhere. And so for us to see him here and interacting with you all and being able to get out in the community and just love on people, there's just something special about Tommy. We prayed for him so many nights that he would find his purpose, and his purpose would be to bless others. And so we know he's going to do that, and so it's just our honor to pass him along and for you guys to welcome him. Thank you.
Now, wait a minute. Your college roommate's here tonight, too.
So yeah, let me introduce Tom Mascari.
Yeah.
Okay, so the side story was we lived in a fraternity, we were roommates.
Remember, this is being broadcast live.
Yeah. So our faculty advisor was a Catholic priest who really helped us and shepherd us and grow. But one thing he did is he brought in a St. Bernard to be our house dog. And St. Bernard was 180 pounds.
Wow.
And he lived with us in our room, a very small room. And so Tommy introduced me to dogs and caring for dogs and everything else. So if you do the breadcrumbs, I think he's just as much a part of our family as everyone else.
Mr. Mascari is?
Yes, yeah.
And I went to college with him, too, by the way. So, remember those times? I don't. I don't remember a damn thing. It's like,
Thank you.
thank you, sir.
Can I just say?
Oh, please,
one more thing?
please, absolutely.
So I didn't want to forget everyone that's here with us. So we have Linda, who is our trainer.
Oh, yeah, Kim, come on up to the
Oh, I'm
microphone.
sorry.
We want to capture every word in case the dog wants to see.
Okay. With us, we also have Linda. Linda's in the blue shirt there. She is our trainer, and she's also the vice president of our organization. And she, like me, we both started our career in service dogs, guide dogs in particular, probably 20 years ago. And so we have always been on this path of service, and this has just been a blessing for both of us to be able to do this. And then there's Audrey Fields, and then there's Maria Fields, and both of you have already been introduced. So I just, again, want to thank you for the opportunity. And if you have all that money, we're a 501c3. Thank you.
Quick question for either Kim or Audrey. Who wants to answer the question? But how many weeks to train?
So puppies are put into volunteer puppy raiser homes when they're 8 to 10 weeks of age. And then they're raised until they're about 15 months old by those individuals. Now, Audrey and Eric and Maria, they had Tommy till he was about a year old, and then he went to another puppy raising family so that he could get the experiences of two different things. We like to be sure that all the dogs have the opportunity to be in a rural environment, be in a city environment, live with other dogs, live by themselves, whatever we can do to give them the broadest experience in their training.
Wow. So, Maria, do you want to answer a couple of questions?
Yes.
Come on up, come on up. Your enthusiasm is infectious, Maria. Thank you. So, what's this like to bring home Tommy at 8 weeks and then have to let him go at a year? That's got to be emotional.
Yeah, that's always the question that we get is how do you do that?
Yeah.
Because everyone's like, how do you let them go? But it is hard to let them go.
course.
But it's all about perspective. Just keeping in mind that like the lives that he's going to impact is going to go so much greater than just in our family and the people
Sure.
that we know. And so that makes it worthwhile.
So when Dad says, get up, we're heading to Southern Illinois to a park, you know what that's all about.
Yep, I'm like, all right, say less. Puppy time.
Do you currently have another dog at home?
Yeah, we have two.
You have two.
One a golden retriever.
Wow. And how many dogs have you had in the home at one time?
About, I think like only 3 max.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it doesn't exceed the local ordinances, not having more than 3 animals?
I
In case
don't-
Tinley
I don't
Park's tuning in or anybody or so. Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Where's Mr. Coon? Where's Brad? Come on up here, handsome. I'm talking to the dog. Come on. Brad, kindly introduce yourself for those tuning in.
Brad Kuntz. I'm the Community Service Officer for the Police Department.
And this,
And this is Tommy.
and Brad and Tommy have been together since Tommy's arrival.
Since, yeah, the 30th of May.
Yeah, so that's.
And then it was about 6 weeks prior to that, on Thursday nights, we'd train.
Where did you train on Thursday nights?
Well, at a elementary school in Aurora.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, how cool is that? I had gotten the news that, for lack of a better word, Tommy was going to be assigned to Brad Coons, and I thought, life is good. Does he cruise around in the Jeep with you?
He does, yeah.
Does he?
Yes. I have a special dog hammock, hard bottom hammock, that he sits in the back seat, and I latch him into it, and he just rides around, puts his head right at the air conditioning vent that blows in from in the middle.
Oh my gosh,
Life's good.
life is good. So what special insight do you have with Tommy? Or about Tommy?
Well, he does like to chase squirrels, as most dogs do. Loves to play ball, so you might see us down in South Street at the baseball field in the morning. He likes
nice.
to chase the ball. But like everyone said, he's just for 18 months old, he's very friendly, very compassionate with people, very open to seeing people, and says hi to everybody.
And Tommy knows when he is truly called into service. For example, I think, Kim, you referenced a recent car incident.
Yeah, we had a little car accident on the Fabian Bridge, and a little 5-year-old girl was pretty shaken up.
Yeah.
And I just asked her if she wanted to meet my friend, and I brought him over, and instantly she changed from being terrified to, oh, it's a puppy,
And
Just-
Tommy knows that.
I would hope he does.
Sure.
He seems to know it. Yeah. Yeah, he's a lot calmer than a lot of 1.5-year dogs that I've had, so.
And will he be around late enough tonight to comfort us during the committee of the whole discussion next?
Yes, yes. He'll crawl from alderperson to alderperson under the desks. He might chew something, but,
That's okay.
if you leave something out, it's free game.
I could imagine. And Tommy, where does Tommy call it a night?
He's staying with me right now,
Right?
but gradually he'll probably transition to staying with the chief a little bit. I'll be on vacation in a couple weeks, so.
Chief, you're going to bring the dog? Where's Chief?
Yeah.
And what's Mrs. Chief say? She's good with
Yeah.
it? Wow. I think, Antonori, you want to bring Tommy home?
See? Yeah, we already have scheduled to go see all the firemen next week
Oh, fun.
and meet with the different shifts so they can get an idea what it's like.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
So who else would like to say a few words? We have some very special guests with us tonight who have gifts for Tommy.
We spoke with them.
Do you want to say a few words, Mr. Pug and Hound?
Sure, why not?
Come on up.
Here, I just want to show the little.
Now, this gentleman who is the owner of Pug and Hound heard about this, so put together a gift basket, a welcome basket.
Just the toy here, the most thing I'm impressed with is we have a little tag that says dog agent. So we're gonna give that to him. And we also have a little bone that we made for him. It's kind of like the bone to Pug and Hound. He gets 15% off for the life of Tommy. So come on in
Nice.
anytime.
Is that transferable?
We'll work on it. We'll work on it. And then we got him a little sun shirt, so if he's ever outside, that can work out. Yeah, just a bunch of little gifts, so
That
we
is
just
so
wanted
sweet.
to drop it off and,
Thank you.
Yeah,
you
we
know,
appreciate
there
that.
you go. And then
That's awesome.
now, I met the founders of the organization. We're gonna work with them
Oh,
and
no
work
kidding.
on doing some fundraisers so we can get them some money.
Fantastic.
You know, because these dogs are very important. There's actually, one of the distributors we work with, they actually have dogs in the classroom, and they've shown how it's improved grades and
Oh,
just
sure.
morale. So they are very important, and he's pretty cute, so
Yes.
Well, thank you.
they all are, so.
You met Tommy, right?
Oh, yeah. I like your haircut.
Chief, do you want to say anything? Yes. Welcome, sir.
You asked.
I know. I didn't expect that.
Well, there are so many people to thank, and it starts with obviously the mayor, city council, city administrator Dawkins. When I approached her with this, I appreciate her willingness to allow this to move forward. I think we saw the need in the community as the department has worked very hard to increase our mental health services to the community and to our staff. And a lot of things happen, a lot of traumatic events, and so to be able to offer something like this is an amazing gift to the community. And I cannot thank Linda and Kim enough. The number of times they've come up here from Tinley Park to walk around our police department, meet us, make sure that this was a good fit for Tommy and for us. It's very clear that they love these animals, and as a golden retriever owner at home, this was an easy one for me. And for all of you, for all of the work you put forward with him, I don't know how you do it. I couldn't give one up after a year, but you guys have given us a gift here that will really serve this community for a very long time, and I can't thank you enough for that. To our officers too, thank you for your willingness to embark on this new journey and to have this service available. I think we've seen benefits already, and I think we'll just continue to see them as we move forward. So, thank you very much.
Quick follow-up question, Chief.
Yes.
And I believe I'm paraphrasing you correctly. We wanted to ensure that the Geneva Police Department was a good fit for Tommy and Tommy for us. Any comments from Tommy regarding the offices and the space?
Well, I think he would like some new space. If he could find a way to get that, that would be great.
Let me throw that softball to you again.
Right, that was good. I like it.
Well done.
So, thank you.
Really a nice big yard to run it.
Kim, you're a visitor here.
Maybe near South Street.
Now we will move with great speed. We actually have the pleasure of swearing in Tommy. And we have a unique oath of office. This is actually twice as long as the human oath, which is pretty cool. Brad, are you going to interpret for Tommy?
Sure.
Okay.
Tommy, you got to pay attention to the mayor.
Okay, Tommy, focus. Okay, Tommy, come on up here, buddy. I'm gonna move this out of the way. I wanted to begin by saying raise your right paw, but I know that I can't do it. Officer Coons is gonna respond on behalf of Tommy. This is the official oath of office for the Comfort Dog. I, Tommy, having been appointed to the position of Comfort Dog in the city of Geneva, county of Kane,
Having been appointed to the position of Comfort Dog in the city of Geneva, county of Kane,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to provide comfort and companionship to all who need it.
to provide comfort and companionship to all who need it.
I promise to offer solace,
I promise to offer solace,
encouragement, and gentle touch needed
encouragement, and gentle touch needed
folks to relieve sadness, fear, and confusion.
to relieve sadness, fear, and confusion.
With a warm heart and tender companionship,
With a warm heart and tender companionship,
and an abundance of joy and unconditional love,
and an abundance of joy and unconditional love,
I commit to being a steadfast presence
I commit to being a steadfast presence
for both officers and community members alike.
for both officers and community members alike.
Through my calming presence,
Through my calming presence,
I strive to create
I strive to create
an atmosphere of peace,
an atmosphere of peace,
security,
security,
and reassurance.
and reassurance.
I vow
I vow
to be a source of unwavering support,
to be a source of unwavering support,
serving our community through all my days.
serving our community through all of my days.
Wonderful. Congratulations, Tommy. Welcome aboard. We'll discuss the pension impact. Delete that. Poor Tommy's up. Everybody, thank you very, very much. We hope you'll stick around for the next discussion.
Do we get input?
No, not you. No, you've had your input, Kim. Thank you all. Oh, the poor dog must be out of the back. Okay.
How about just a new council chair
Yeah, how about just,
with the real air conditioning?
folks, we're going to jump right into item 2B, as in boy, which is a presentation and discussion of facilities master plan. A brief preamble to this is as follows. Please hold all questions and/or comments till after the full presentation is made. Our objective this evening, after considerable discussion anticipated, we want to reach consensus with respect to an adoption of a plan for formal consideration on July 7th. So the floor will be open to anyone and everyone with respect to questions. We have our guests with us tonight. They'll introduce themselves. They'll run through, I think it's about 217 slides, give or take. And then we will answer questions or pose questions as we see fit. Sound good? And Alderperson Kosarog will not be seen, though he can see the presentation. Okay?
That's true?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good evening. That is a tremendously difficult act to follow, although I was told if I do a good job, I get a treat.
Yes.
My name is Dave Yandel. I'm a principal with FGM Architects. We're headquartered here in the western suburbs in Oak Brook. Joined tonight with a friend and colleague with Leopardo Construction, Lee McMillan. They've been assisting us with cost consulting, constructability analysis for this very fun project. So again, I'm going to go through this fairly straightforwardly, maybe 20 minutes or so. I'm going to try to cover a lot of ground. I want to preface again, this is fairly high-level summary. We've got a multiple-page document that's going to back this up that hopefully is going to be refined based on our comments here today. So a fairly straightforward agenda. We want to revisit the goals. What is actually being solved? Why are we here? The methodology that we took. what we heard, again, mostly all this in summary format, some of the opportunities and constraints for the existing facilities and some of the sites that were considered for potentially new facilities, some of the options that were considered, and we're bringing, for most facilities, kind of the recommended option today, but with a caveat, some preliminary costs, and then talk about next steps. So we're here today to talk about City of Geneva-owned facilities. And so there are many without. From east to west, you've got the generation facility all the way out to the water treatment plant. So the ones in gray, including the wastewater treatment plant, were not included as part of this facility study, primarily because they're kind of their own entities and they've got their own projects kind of being developed and moving forward. So we're focusing on the City Hall Library and Police Station here in downtown, Fire Stations 1 and 2, and the Public Works Facility on South Street. So why are we here? We are a historic community, and we are great stewards of our facilities, but the historic nature of a lot of our facilities make infrastructure improvements challenging. It's really geared towards serving the community and giving a level of service to the residents that they expect and deserve. And a lot of that is, even under the umbrella of resiliency. We talked a little bit about Tommy's role as kind of emotional resiliency and, that social economic resiliency and equity that he brings helps with the village. So we're here to talk a little bit about the infrastructure resiliency that the community needs as well. We're trying to attract and retain the best and brightest to help serve not only the city, but its residents. So we're going to talk fairly briefly about kind of summarize the facilities. The police department, it's a technical term, it's a bit of a Frankenstein building, built in several phases over years, from the historic garage that fronts First Street to additions in 1953, 1987, which is kind of the blue tower entrance, which screams 1987, and upgrades in 2002. It needs significant infrastructure improvements and space needs to really impact the operational needs. We all heard Tommy needs his own suite now, so that's going to be a challenge as well. Here we are today, obviously in City Hall, constructed at the turn of the century, and we can kind of see we're tight on space, we're tight on infrastructure, we're tight on cooling. If the new police department were to be constructed and the finance department were to be dislodged from their current space, they need a new home. And so there's just not enough space in this building for the current departments, but then trying to get new space for new departments is challenging. At the beginning of this process, the library came on board. Again, a little bit of a interesting building, again, turn of the century, with significant additions in the 1930s that added to the east side, and then 1986 and 98 really almost doubled the size of the building with significant additions. It's been vacant since 2020. It's got continuing kind of accessibility infrastructure needs to bring it up to current standards. Fire Station 1, while it might be the newest building, was still constructed over 20 years ago, generally in really good condition, but it's starting to hit the kind of end of life for some of its systems. 20 to 25 years is when you're starting to see roofs, mechanical equipment, stuff that is traditionally changing at that kind of generational pace. There need to be addressed in a regular format. Fire Station 2, on the west side, constructed in 1993 to kind of a residential grade, a residential standard. It was fairly intentional from a budget standpoint as well as blending in with the neighborhood over there. But it is significantly undersized and does not meet current operational needs for the fire department. And then lastly, Public Works, originally constructed in 1987 and expanded 10 years later. It's a large facility. It's really the workhorse of the city, with many departments, water, sewer, electric, all kind of being headquartered out of there. And one of the challenges there is just the overall size of it and the nature of the facility itself. So the overarching goal of the master plan and the work that we've been doing over the last 2 years is to build a consensus on a strategy or group of strategies on how to move forward. The team worked very closely with city staff and the community to build thoughtful solutions. There's an overarching goal to provide consistency across departments, police, fire, public works, and city staff kind of sharing in similar amenities. And then during any implementation, being able to, looking at phasing options to make sure that we're always maintaining operations at 100% during any construction or renovation or remodeling. So we took many steps to get to this point. It started with a meeting similar to this, reviewing record documents, tours of the existing facilities, extensive meetings with key stakeholders. City council was surveyed, and a lot of those responses were incorporated into the following meetings with stakeholders. Once we kind of submitted a draft, we collaborated closely with the strategic plan process and the updates that were going on with the city. And now we've been coordinating most recently with the city engagement process. And all of this came together to develop a range of options and costs that ended up in kind of our recommended solutions. So what we heard, and this is just kind of a summary, and this is for all the different stakeholders, the community engagement process, the council surveys, there was some consistency in message. One of them that always rose to the top was the immediate need for a new police station. And then overarching modernization and infrastructure improvements at all the other city-owned facilities. And that's really driven to provide safe, secure, accessible workspaces for all. There's a goal to complete the plan as soon as possible because of the cost of, the significant cost of the improvements, and, the cost of waiting is only going to increase cost of projects. Again, resiliency, sustainability, remaining good stewards, making sure that we're providing facilities that are going to last in the next century and the next generation, while maintaining the historic character of a lot of the city-owned facilities. So some of the constraints as we are looking at new and existing spaces were looking at both, we looked at some private spaces, but we looked at a lot of city-owned spaces. The biggest challenge there was making sure that they were cost-effective. City-owned facilities minimizes any cost impact, schedule impact, and it's a little less complicated as opposed to going out into the private market, private sector. And when we were looking at space needs and programming needs, we always, and even cost options and variances, we always kind of track it as kind of the must-do, should-do, nice-to-do. So a lot of what we're talking about tonight is at a bare minimum what you must do to keep these facilities moving forward. So not only were we looking at the existing conditions and the physical infrastructure, but we were talking about space needs and what people need to be able to best perform their services. And so what we're showing is the existing program or the existing size of the spaces or the 5 facilities studied, and kind of what the proposed must-do program is. The police station is undersized significantly by almost double in order to meet their needs. And that's mostly geared towards additional training spaces, right-sizing a lot of their offices and additional meeting spaces, and then really right-sizing evidence storage. The requirements for evidence storage is significant. You need to hold on to things a lot longer than you used to. And so having future-proofing those types of spaces. City Hall, ideally would about double in size, and that's primarily 2 things. One, as I mentioned, bringing finance department back into City Hall and kind of right-sizing city council chambers. Fire Station 1, we really don't need any, ideally more, in a should-do or nice-to-do scenario, additional space for storage and staff spaces. Staff support spaces would be nice, but from a must-do, it's really working on the kind of capital improvements of maintaining and improving, systems and components that need to be replaced over time. And Public Works, we're looking for additional meeting space and additional staff support spaces, break rooms, locker rooms, really spaces that are not present as in the current space. So jumping back to the spaces, we're going to talk a little bit more about the individual dots. We're going to start downtown with the City Hall, Library, and police spaces. So for the police station, the best opportunity is that there were we looked at dozens of privately owned sites and publicly or city-owned sites, and so we found many city-owned sites available for development, and the one that kind of rose to the top was South Street. The challenge is that the current downtown site just really isn't that feasible for redevelopment, and the existing building really does not meet programmatic needs. And it would be challenging to provide those in the downtown setting. So some of the options that we considered was redeveloping the existing site. We did many test fits to see if we could use the site as it's currently outlined in blue, although the blue box shifted a little bit, sorry. Several privately owned sites and several city-owned sites. So the one that kind of rose to the top was a 45,000 square foot police station located on South Street, directly to the east of the Public Works facility, currently where there's ball fields. but this is city-owned property. So the 45,000 square feet would include records and administration, patrol, evidence storage, training spaces, staff support, and a smaller detention space. And then the kind of the box down below would be an alternate for indoor parking, and then we're also considering an alternate for an indoor firing range and additional training spaces. One of the benefits of this is that it creates a parcel for potential redevelopment. Almost 60,000 square feet that could be redeveloped for, private mixed-use development or potentially a new downtown parking structure. We test fit a structure similar to the 3rd Street garage, but a little bit smaller, 200 to 300 spaces. So there's a great opportunity here in downtown if the police department moves. Jumping to the west to the City Hall and Library, the opportunities are really maintaining the downtown location for city services. We heard that consistently both from City Council and from other departments that it's important to be downtown to deliver those services. There's ample space available between the two buildings and the site. There's almost too much space available between the site. And obviously, if we look at redeveloping one or both of the buildings, we're maintaining that historic character downtown. And as I kind of hinted at, there's almost too much space. Combined, there are almost 50 to 60,000 square feet, and as I showed, we only really need 20,000 square feet to meet the City Hall program. And then probably the biggest challenge is that these two facilities don't meet current accessibility energy codes, and there's really no provisions for a storm shelter, and that's kind of consistent with each of the facilities. So the highlights of the program are accessible spaces, right-sized council chambers, additional meeting spaces, and incorporating the finance department. So those were going into that 20,000 square feet. So we looked at several options for City Hall and Library. In each one, the historic City Hall building remains. We looked for various options of adaptive reuse of the existing library, and we also looked at adding parking here in downtown on James Street, and that's actually a project that's already started, is already in progress. We're going to add some diagonal parking right out front of the building to increase downtown parking, not only for City Hall, but downtown events. So we did also look at a municipal, kind of the idea of a municipal campus, of having a 20,000 square foot City Hall building as part of potentially a police department or a shared facility. So the gold half on the left side would be the City Hall, kind of co-joined to a police station. There's some benefits there in terms of having, again, ample site space, parking, kind of a secure environment. But the challenge is, again, that it leaves downtown, and that was not desirable. But we wanted to show it just because it was something that we looked at and wanted to make sure that people understood that there was opportunity. So I'm going to show you 4 options for City Hall. Again, there were dozens that were looked at, so these are the kind of summary of what they all kind of came together for. The first one was the adaptive reuse of the existing library for City Hall functions. So basically there's about 40,000 square feet there. We could redevelop that, create more public meeting spaces. As I mentioned, 20,000 square feet of City Hall program, and then there would be additional meeting space or some other space that could be shared by the community. And then we could renovate this building, the existing City Hall, for other community uses. Satellite police station, if the police station moves out to South Street, then maybe the lower level here is part of a satellite program. The upper level here could still continue to be used for community meeting spaces, but would still need to be renovated to bring it up to code compliance and accessibility standards. The second option was maybe we take the north addition that was built in, I can't remember, the 80s or 90s of the library, and kind of right size the library building to get closer to that 20,000 square foot program, and maybe add additional surface parking to the north. Same thing, we'd move City Hall into the library building, and then this building could be redeveloped, kind of similar to option 1. Option 3 removes the existing library in its entirety and adds on to the west side of City Hall with historic character, trying to almost double the size of this building, where kind of the T-shape to the west would be the new council chambers or new meeting spaces that would be part of a new entry civic plaza, creating an accessible entrance into the building. The site and the grading of the site really allows, because it slopes basically west to east, that about the middle of the site would allow for an at-grade entrance that's at about this level, and then the lower level here would become kind of a garden level. But it was an interesting sketch to do, but obviously raised a little bit of alarm with losing the library in its entirety. And so option 4 was kind of a hybrid scheme as we developed it. And this kind of came out of a series of meetings that we had with council staff or council and other city staff, where the City Hall remains its entirety. The original historic portion of the library remains, and that's about 4,000 or 5,000 square feet. So that's the turn of the century, the 1908 portion of the building. And then a new contemporary kind of bridge space gets built to tie the two buildings together, trying to find a unique, we haven't looked at it architecturally, but it's an interesting problem to try to solve, to try two different architectures together. But again, the grading would work, that you could create a new kind of two-story space that would help tie the two buildings together and create that accessible at-grade city service scenario. So I'm going to jump over to the fire stations. Again, Fire Station 1 headquarters, the biggest challenge is kind of meeting contemporary operational needs. More space for decontamination. There's, in the fire station industry, we talk about hot zones and cold zones. And after you fought a fire, you came back from the field, room and space to clean off before you kind of bring yourself back, any of your equipment back into the staff quarters, and really keeping those two areas separated. More privacy improvements in sleeping quarters. We're seeing more female officers and firefighters in the industry, so making sure that those types of spaces are there. And then enclosed access to the lower level. Right now, to get to the basement or outside for outside visitors, it's an outside open stairwell, and being able to protect that a little bit more and create secure and enclosed spaces. Again, the opportunities, the building is in very good condition, minimum amount of additional space required. The program, as we've talked about, MEP improvements, security improvements, renovated staff spaces. Again, it's been 20, 25 years almost. Decontamination zone, and then the enclosed access. When we look at the existing site plan, really no significant changes, just a little red box that shows where that stairway is on the west side of the building. Fire Station 2 on the west side, we've talked about the age of the facility. They just don't meet current codes, accessibility, energy code. There's no storm shelter. The existing site challenges make it difficult to add on or renovate this building and still be able to maintain services, which was one of the big challenges. One of the opportunities is that there's an existing city-owned site directly to the east that redevelopment may help with neighborhood stormwater improvements as well. The program is basically kind of similar to Fire Station 1, maybe not as much administrative space, but a similar drive-through apparatus bays, some office and community meeting space, and then the staff support, appropriately sized bunk rooms, locker rooms, break rooms, additional training and fitness. Right now, their fitness center is a stick-built garage that's on the back side of the building, independent of the fire station. This building was built before accessibility was fully enforced, so it's not an accessible building. And opportunities for sustainable design and incorporating a storm shelter into the new facility would be paramount. So again, here's the existing fire station and the large site that is city-owned to the east. So a potential layout would be to build on the north side of that site, and you can see the layout is similar to the layout of Fire Station 1 in the headquarters building. And that kind of consistency across departments is important. Demoing the existing fire station could create other opportunities for either development or, again, helping to improve neighborhood stormwater. And then Public Works, the biggest challenge is the age of the existing infrastructure as well as the overall size of the facility. It's a big facility, so when you're not changing one light bulb or one light fixture, you're changing hundreds of light fixtures. And just even pavement improvements. There's a lot of trucks that go through here, a lot of traffic that goes through here. The salt really eats away at the pavement. It's time for a refresh. It needs to be updated. The office facility up front, there's air handlers that don't work, offices that don't get heat, and there's just not enough space for staff and for meetings and training. But the benefits is that the site is large and there's plenty of space available. So again, we're talking about MEP improvements, security improvements. Right now it's kind of open. The main vehicle maintenance facility is basically fronting South Street, and those overhead doors are open, especially even on a day like today. There's no air conditioning in there, and that's just a significant security breach. There's no way to stop the public from actually coming into the building when an overhead door is there wide open. Roadway and access improvements to get to the salt shed that's located on the rear of the site. And then a renovation or an addition to really improve the offices, meeting rooms, as I mentioned, staff support like locker and break rooms, and introducing a storm shelter to the facility. So again, here's the existing site as shown, and what we're proposing is an addition potentially to the east as part of kind of a new dedicated parking lot. We're showing secure fencing that would support staff, dedicated staff parking and really enclose all this stuff that's stored outside. There's a significant amount of materials that are stored outside that are, I don't want to say unprotected, but at risk. And then ideally having additional covered vehicle storage. That's kind of a should-do item, that kind of green box to the west. The more you can protect your vehicles, and that goes for police, fire, and public works, the more you can protect your vehicles, you're really protecting your investment in infrastructure and extending the life of those assets. And this shows the site again with a new police station, also kind of sharing that secure area. Talk a little bit about how we got here. This started back in 21 when the city completed a initial facility condition assessment with a different consultant, and they were really looking at the age of the existing facilities and what it would take to renovate them and bring them up to current codes. But they didn't really look at additions, renovations, or space needs. It was really just the existing facilities conditions. So the following year, the city reviewed that and made the decision to move forward with a facilities master plan, and that's when FGM came on board. And the goal again was to confirm not only the facility needs but the programmatic needs and look at options for redevelopment. We completed a draft in 2024, and that's when the city kind of took the information from that initial report, took it out to the community to really demonstrate to them the need to support the funding for these facilities. So here we are in 2025. Our goal is to refine this plan based on the conversation tonight. And as the mayor mentioned, our goal is to adopt this facilities master plan so that we can start talking about implementation. This is, oh, that went fast. This was the map that, kind of the roadmap that we had at the beginning of the project and kind of where we're at. Again, we're looking, the process was analysis all the way through refinement. So we're looking at the buildings and sites, we're looking at the program, we're layering sustainability and initiatives. And sustainability, again, talks is not just LEED or green initiatives, it's those resiliency efforts, maintaining this infrastructure, long-term viability of these facilities, the storm shelters, making sure they're safe places for employees to work. Cost has been a constant discussion. Leopardo has a spreadsheet that would scare everybody in this room with the amount of data that they have. And so rolling some of that information up has been some of the interesting parts of this project and trying to reconcile costs with some of the recommended options. And then schedule and phasing and that implementation. So our goal here tonight is to kind of confirm direction and how we want to move forward. And so that kind of is a lead into what's this going to cost. I've showed this slide before. Back at 1912, it cost $14,900 to build this building by a local contractor. Prices have gone up just a little bit since then. But it's interesting, that you had a lot of interest in this project, and you're going to have a lot of interest in the future projects. And the costs that we've been sharing to date, it's important to understand that it's not just the construction costs. A lot of times construction costs gets published because that's what the bid amounts are. That's what the contractors get out there. But there's more to a project. And so construction costs are the bricks and mortar, the the contractors, the construction managers, general conditions, overhead and profit, the insurance. We're often looking at escalation, so when the work actually happens. And there's often a contingency for unforeseen conditions. And then there's the owner's costs or the soft costs. That's the due diligence, which is kind of a major heading. That's the survey of the existing site, the geotechnical investigation that needs to be done, professional fees, not only for architects, but for other engineers and consultants, the furniture, fixtures, and equipment that go into it, and then again, a project contingency for those unknowns that we don't quite have figured out at this phase of the project. So with that, the numbers that we're sharing tonight are today's dollars. If these projects were to start in design in 2026 and start construction of 2027 is the general time frame that these numbers align to. So again, these are project costs that include construction and all the owner's costs and these are the must-do programs. So this is the kind of absolute bare minimum for a new police station to meet their must-do needs, approximately $48 million. City Hall, the four options that we showed range in price from $34 to $42 million. Fire Station 1, kind of a capital plan of $8 million over time. That could be done as a single, that would probably be multiple projects over multiple years. Fire Station 2, kind of a new construction, a new station at about $20 million. And Public Works, kind of similar, a series of projects that would total almost just over $21 million. So that gives us a range of about $132 to $139 million overall for these planned improvements. So in summary, our recommendation in the draft of the report for the police department was to provide a new station on city-owned site on South Street. For the City Hall and Library, we need a little bit more discussion, but including renovation addition and confirming the extent of renovation of the existing library. For the fire department, it's providing capital improvements to Fire Station 1 and providing a new Fire Station 2 on the city-owned property to the east. And then for Public Works, renovate and expand along with significant capital improvements. So our recommendation tonight is adoption of the facilities master plan, but we had a few questions we need answered, and this is the beginning of our discussion point. We want to reaffirm that a new police station is an immediate need. Confirm that City Hall should remain downtown. I know I showed one option of it moving potentially to South Street or some other location. Confirm the preferred direction for City Hall. Again, we showed kind of the 4 options plus that municipal option, campus option. And if we can get this sorted out, come back on July 7th with the adoption of the master plan. And with that, I am open to any questions. Yes.
Thank you, Dave. The floor is open for questions or comments to either Dave or our other guests regarding anything and everything you've seen. Alderperson Mayor?
I actually want to know, are we going to talk about the costs after this, or, because we didn't, so there were several options for the library, but no costs associated with the different options? Are they varying costs or
They
all
are
the
very,
same?
so I showed the range there. So the lowest cost option, thank you very much. Gotta get to my cheat sheet. So option 1, I gotta get my cheaters out too. Option 3, which is the demolition of the existing library and the addition to the west, that gets us to a kind of a right-sized city hall, is about $35 million. So that was the low end of that range.
So that was keep this building and tear down the entire library and then build a new addition without respect to anything over there, just
Without respect to anything at the library.
at the library, okay. Sorry if I'm getting in front of your face when I am. And then what was the order of magnitude of the others?
So the option 4, which was the hybrid, which was tearing down the majority of the library, but keeping the historic 1908 corner, the southwest corner, that's $38 million. So that was number 2. And then options 1 and 2 were very close in that kind of $43 million range.
And those were, I'm
So
sorry.
option 1 was basically keeping the entire library, renovating it for a new city hall, and then renovating this building for some other use. And then option 2 was demoing the north half, or north third of the library, kind of right-sizing the library for a city hall facility, adding a little bit more street parking, and then renovating this building for a different use.
Okay. So it was 3 and 4, right, that were,
The more cost-effective.
the
than-
low, okay.
Yes.
All right,
And that's
great.
mostly because we're right-sizing the facilities. We're not, to keep both buildings, there's not enough program to fill those spaces.
No, I don't want to keep their entirety. Okay, I had a question because I got a little confused about what you were saying when you used the word infrastructure. Are you talking about all the building utilities, or are you talking about the actual structure of the building is included in what you're saying is infrastructure?
That's a great question. Infrastructure was really meant to talk about the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems within the building. Most of the buildings are very structurally sound. And so when we talk about infrastructure improvements, it was kind of a term that came out of we had been using it, but it also kind of came out of the community feedback. It was kind of the way that they summarized those types of projects, so we wanted to be consistent with that language. So, but it's really the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, is, you know, it's often abbreviated as MEP systems.
Okay.
But no, the buildings that would remain, like Public Works, you know, the metal building component, the large barn place is in very good shape. It just needs, you know, a little love and attention. Fire Station 1 is in very good shape. You know, this building and the library are structurally in very good shape, but
But
it's
they all need new MEP systems and new finishes.
correct.
Okay. Thank you. I wanted to ask more about the stairway down to the lower level at Fire Station 1. Is there not an elevator in that building?
There is. So inside the building, there's an elevator and a stairwell. So, but if you're coming to an outside training event, as opposed to going through the library, or I'm sorry, through the fire station, most people enter from the exterior entrance. And so it faces due west, it's exposed to the elements. It's in poor condition now. We've been working with the facilities team on recommended improvements just to the stairs themselves and the railings that are there, but protecting it from the elements would be.
So it would be a fully enclosed, not just an awning?
Yeah,
is
we've
what
been
you're
looking at all three options, but I think the one that's been recommended and desired is the one that would be, you know, kind of an enclosed
Okay.
facility.
I support that because I've seen what happens in this weather to exterior metal stairways and things like that. It's
Yeah.
just hard to maintain them. And
It's
keep
tough,
them
and it faces due west. It catches every ounce of any storm.
Right. I wanted to know more about the bunks and the fire stations because it was one of the things that struck me, but I don't really know anything about it relative to whether that's normal. Is our bunk situation for fire stations similar to other communities, different, worse?
It's similar to other older facilities. It is not consistent with current trends, which not only in fire stations, but almost universally looking for more privacy. You know, whether it's a single-use restroom or a kind of a single-use bunk room, a lot of them right now are maybe half height or three-quarter height walls in kind of a group room setting. So being able to go to a private bunk room where it's gender neutral or all gender really allows for that kind of extra level of privacy and, you know, flexibility within a fire department.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. Alderperson Marks?
You know, the first comment I'll make is, yes, the police station is a must. I mean, I
Appreciate that.
didn't hear Alderman Mayer say that, but I know that, you know, I've taken tours of that, and that is still high on the priority for me. Out on Fire Station 2, I live out that way, so I know it. That area that's open floods into that parking lot when it gets really, because I mean, it covers everything else from the east of town coming
Correct.
through there. Has there been any water studies done to
We have
see
not
if
take-
that's going to work?
We have not taken it to that level of study. Once we get past kind of the feasibility and, you know,
I mean, there's a curb cut so that water runs across the whole parking lot that the city doesn't own, actually.
Right.
You probably just have an easement to get it out of there, but, okay, so that'll probably be something that'll be a little bit of a concern because that water keeps coming from other subdivisions to
yeah,
there.
it's definitely a low spot and it's definitely a collecting point.
Yeah, it is big, and then put the fire station, I don't know if you're gonna be able to replace all of that with the little spot that the fire station is on, with probably, I hate to say it, but probably some underground water storage or something at times, which gets expensive too, so, that is it. That was my question out there, I realize it. For me, you know, keeping that historic part of the library, I think is a great selling point for me and for a lot of the community. So even though it's a little bit more expensive, I probably lean more towards option 4 just because it's not that great of an expense considering what we're all looking at here. That's the way I look at it. But you're still seeing everything coming through in phases. I mean, there's no way we're going to get 100 $39 million in
No.
one fell swoop. I mean, we know that from last year's studies. I mean,
Right,
we know that.
and we previously, had shared some numbers and some implementation strategies that showed these being staggered with
Right.
multiple referendums or multiple, some projects being referendum projects and other projects being kind of just increases to your capital spending each year.
Right.
Like a lot of these improvements for the Fire Station 1 or city or Public Works
Right,
could
that's what I
happen
thought.
at
Okay.
maybe just $2, $3, $4, $5 million a year, as opposed to needing the big chunk of 40 or 50
And
million
that's kind of
dollars.
what you're still looking at, I would imagine. in
Well, that's,
this
yeah,
study.
once we get to kind of this preferred scenario, and that would be a refinement here, so adoption of the or the facilities master plan is paramount.
Right.
And then the next step outside of that adoption would be the implementation strategies.
So realistically, what I'm hearing tonight is questions, but confirm police station and then probably just hash out what we really want to do at City Hall, because that's really the areas that are going to be
Correct.
a large
If we
cost.
can get those finalized tonight, then we can publish the master plan.
Okay, and so I've spoken my piece, I guess, on which way I want it to go, and I think that's, Mayor, what you were looking for also. is-
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone's
that-
free to speak as they see fit.
Okay.
Ask any questions or comments.
Okay.
Alderperson Bowering, then Alderperson Paschke.
Thank you so much for the the presentation and all of the work that has gone into this. I know this has been a long process, and I've only been here for part of it. I would second what Alderperson Marks just said, and I'd go so far as to say I think Alderperson Mayer would also agree, maybe she even said this. I'm certainly inclined to keep the oldest part of the historic library structure. I'm glad it's not the top cost. I'm glad it's not that far from the lower cost. But I think that is important and in keeping with what we're asking, frankly, residents in our historic district to do as well. So as a resident of the historic district, it would sit pretty poorly with me if we just said we're gonna demolish this very historically significant building. When I think there's a reasonable path to incorporate it. And yeah, options 1 and 2 are just not very interesting to me, and I vastly prefer option 4 to option 3. And then I guess beyond that, I would say, so I think the police station is a very significant need. And I think Fire Station 2 is also having toward that a very significant need to me. I mean, I think that is the sort of situation where anything we do to that building is just like throwing good money after bad. And there are so many deteriorating structures beyond the fact that it really does not, I think, provide adequate services for an increasingly female staff, and their privacy concerns. And I believe in both fire stations, you could correct me, there are ad hoc curtains that are erected around many of these bunk areas, which are only either half or 3/4 height at
Correct.
most. And, we're asking firefighters to do a really important job, and they have long shifts, and I think it is important for us to look at that going forward as an area that we really prioritize. And again, it's not that I don't see some of the other needs at Fire Station 1 or Public Works as important, but I guess I do see them as potentially tackleable in smaller chunks. So, yeah, I guess can you remind me how these numbers compare to what we were looking at before the referendum? Do you happen to know? It doesn't seem like they're vastly
They're not.
different.
So they've been escalated for approximately 1 year.
Okay.
Because of, I don't want to say the delay, the
Sure.
process that we're in.
Sure,
So,
yep.
and other numbers that we had shared were showing kind of some different implementation strategies. So some people may have seen higher numbers, so the numbers haven't necessarily come down. We're just showing these now in kind of a lump sum, if
Okay.
you did all 4 projects, today.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, for the low bargain price of.
Oh, right.
So.
I guess I would be curious, and maybe this is not the time to do it, but I know that some feedback I've heard from residents has to do with, St. Charles was able to do this and that for this cost. And I think as you brought up, sometimes what's being compared there is actually hard cost to total cost. Do we have a breakdown where we can say
We do.
this proportion is roughly the hard cost and this proportion is the soft cost per project? Because
We
I'd
do.
be interested to see that. It doesn't have to be tonight, right now, but I think that would be helpful, particularly because, for example, St. Charles did just build a new police station and city hall. Well, sorry, just several years.
It has.
Well,
And
it's
so-
in recent memory of people, but yes, of course, in
Yeah.
construction years, it's a century or more. Anyway, that's all I have for now. I believe, anyway, so that's my input on City Hall, and then I don't believe there were other things that but in general, I'm supportive of this. I think, you know, it's largely what we had been contemplating previously, and I think it still makes sense. And really, in the long run, I think we'll save the city money. It feels like a really big investment, but I think right now what we're seeing is, you know, if you want to use a residential analogy, like we need a new roof, or we need to redo the kitchen because everything's falling apart, or we need those new systems so that all of our money is not just going out for energy bills or patching this or that, which in municipal dollars is just more than people spend on their houses. Anyway, thank you.
Alderperson Paschke, then Alderperson Malicki, then Alderperson Palmquist.
So I would agree that the police department is still the highest priority, although in considering all of the issues with all of the buildings, it is really hard to even contemplate putting any staff above each other because they all deserve safety and a comfortable space to work. So yeah, I wish we didn't have to prioritize, but yes, the PD would be a priority. I did have a question on that though, because I was pretty sure that in previous discussions, the firing range was listed as a nice to do, not a must do. So I'm surprised that's showing up again as a,
It is not. It is still in the nice to do.
okay.
So the must, I'm sorry if I miscommunicated that. So the 45,000 square foot police department just includes the must-do program, which does not include any indoor parking or the indoor firing range. So those would both be considered should-dos, and then kind of a nice-to-do would be indoor parking for all fleet vehicles and a larger indoor firing range. There's kind of, there's a variety of ranges, and the way that they're being utilized, the old kind of shooting right down a straight lane is a little bit old school now. Ranges that we're seeing now are larger and incorporating more tactical training exercises, so they're a little bit more square in shape or larger and might be on a main level and not necessarily in a lower level or space, so that you can bring in other props, including squad vehicles and such like that. So those are kind of should-dos and nice-to-dos. The must-do would be that kind of base program.
Okay, so the hard costs that you quoted at the end, the breakout, the 48.1 for the PD does not include the firing
Correct.
range? Okay. Okay, thank you for that clarification. And then as for the City Hall Library, I agree with everyone else that has weighed in on that keeping the Carnegie, the historic portion of the library is a priority, especially because that was highlighted by the public as a key factor, keeping the historic charm. So I agree with them. Thank you.
Alderperson Malicki, Palmquist, and Kosarog.
Thank you, Mayor. Looking at the presentation and listening to everything just generated a whole plethora of questions that I have that probably isn't something to really get into the weeds on my part of it at this point. I know that council has voiced their opinion that the police station is a priority, and I agree with that. My feeling is I get worried about talking about everything else at this point. And I don't know if the police stations are priority, maybe that's something that I think in my comfort level would be something that we should just probably prioritize and put everything else to the side for now. And I think if we try to keep talking about City Hall and the library and all these different options, the cost is great to me, but I would be more interested in seeing the actual spreadsheet from Leopardo with the laundry list of all these items that are must do versus should do versus nice to do. Because I worry about, in 10 years, if we pursue certain options and we don't do the should do items, which to me probably leans more towards a must do when it comes down to it, especially with how services and stuff evolve, that if we don't do, should do items on a certain project, then we're gonna be kicking ourselves like 10 years down the road. So again, I'd be interested to see what those items technically are. Specifics to me are good. If we start getting into the weeds about we're worried about, cost is always a huge factor. It's a big concern for everybody. So, if we start doing Band-Aid fixes on the fire station 2 or Public Works, how far is that gonna get us down the road? So I would, to me, specifics is a good thing. So if there's any way we can get some more information on that. But at this point, my opinion is I think that the discussion should probably be focused solely on the police department, because if that moves forward and the police department does end up moving to South Street, and that opens up the property across the street for different options, maybe that helps decision-making for City Hall and the library at a future date in a couple of years, because we might have, things might be moving there, then all of a sudden we have like, oh, well, now all of a sudden, maybe this space here could be used for, like you mentioned earlier, like satellite uses or something for the police station, that all of a sudden could do, become like a more cost-efficient should do or nice to do item. So anyway, that's all I have right now.
I appreciate that input, and I can guarantee you that there is a ton of data out there that helped, and so we tried to kind of pick tonight an approach to deliver kind of the must-do news, but the full report does have all that backup for it.
Alderperson Palmquist, then Kasserag, then Furnish.
Thank you. I would like to just offer my concurrence with previous statements from Alderpersons Marks and Mayor and Bowering and Paschke regarding the priorities. Police station, again, would be the highest priority in my opinion. And in looking at the options for the library and City Hall, I would concur that number 4 would be my preference as well.
Sure.
I also wanted to ask, and maybe Stephanie, within the scale of this study, should we be considering the value of the police station property? I know you referenced that in our overall look, or is that kind of down the road?
So, and Dave can answer too, but yeah, that would be kind of when we look at implementation and where we go from there. Right now, and kind of to Alderperson Malachi's point, this is the overarching plan. Much like our strategic plan, it's the big picture, long-term picture. So that's what we're trying to get, so that we have that on file, and then we can start talking strategy and implementation.
Thank you.
Which would include what we do with whatever we vacate or don't vacate or sell.
Right.
And the draft has been kind of lingering, not lingering, but it's been in draft format. And the reason we're just kind of revisiting the City Hall library discussion today is because there are some new council members, and we just, while the other ones were other solutions, other recommendations were built on a large amount of consensus in the earlier phases, this one was still kind of up for discussion a little bit.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderperson Kasserag, then Furnish.
Thanks, Mayor. I guess I'm a little confused on what's happening on July 7th. Are we just updating and voting on a new facilities master plan, or are we talking about referendum that day?
No, this would be to adopt the facilities master plan. So again,
Okay.
adopting the plan so that you have a plan to work from when you start looking at what your next steps are in implementation.
Okay. I definitely agree with it sounds like almost everybody on the council, that the PD is the number one must. Keeping City Hall downtown would be my preference, and also saving the Carnegie Library as well. So I think that leads me to option 4 as well. I do really think we need to dig deeper on the difference in costs from the St. Charles police station to our estimate for this police station. It's the number one question I got last year.
Sure.
And it's hard to answer without having any specifics. So I guess I'd appreciate if we could get ahead of that a little bit and be able to discuss that with the public more accurately.
No, absolutely, and we would be happy to do that.
Just give me a second here on my notes. We didn't talk about Geneva emergency management at all today. I didn't even hear that when you were talking about Public Works, where it's currently housed. Is that going to be part of the facilities plan and in terms of a separate item, or are we just continuing to integrate that with Public Works?
That's a great question. It has not been a specific question we've addressed to date. I'm familiar with it and aware of its presence within the Public Works facility. So we'll look at that more closely and address that specifically in the updated draft.
Okay. I think then my last thoughts are with Alderperson Maliki about just keeping it to the PD. I tend to agree with him. And I guess is this getting ahead of ourselves? I think maybe that relates back to my first question. If we're just talking facilities and updating our facilities master plan, then I'm not sure that is a topic for discussion right now. I'm not sure though. What do you think? What's your opinion on that?
I think that's an excellent point. The master plan is not going to have a recommended implementation strategy. So
Right.
we are going to give you recommendations for each of the facilities, the kind of current day costs, and we're going to continue to work with the city and give them the tools they need to project how to best implement those strategies. Because even like in the draft of the report now, we had kind of gotten to a point where we had, an agreement on all the facilities and some recommended priorities, and we kind of did a roadmap that showed phased, potentially phased referendums and phased implementation of some of the other capital improvement projects. And that was going to total, a certain number if we started this year, or total a number 8% higher than that if we started a year later because of escalation and inflation, or those numbers depending on how you shift them back and forth. So we're talking about priorities tonight just because it's going to help frame the discussion for implementation. But once we adopt the master plan, the next steps will be full implementation of that plan.
Okay. So I'll just save my comments on that. I do appreciate what he said,
Yeah.
but I don't think that those are relevant.
Council
in terms
may
of just
still
updating the
decide
plan.
that police is the number one priority, but we also want to do police, but at a should-do level, and we want to do, what else can we layer on at a price that the community can support?
Okay, thank you. I think my last comment is I'm not sure how fire station number 2 got built the way it was built and the way it is now. But one of my biggest concerns is making sure that doesn't happen again. And so I guess I'd just like to ask or suggest that to as much as possible, we should future-proof all of our facility improvements to make sure that maybe even they exceed some of the current standards, but standards we know will likely be down the road. I don't And so that's just my suggestion. I don't want to dwell too much on what happened in the past, but moving forward, so, in terms of like the firing range, it's a nice to have, I get it, but it probably is a lot less expensive to do it now than to add a structure later if that becomes a thing that is a must-have, for example, in the future. I guess that's all I wanted to share, is that I think we need to be not just looking at current standards, but also future standards, future possible standards, to make sure we don't need to be revising buildings in 5 or 10 years down the road. And that's it.
We appreciate those comments, and in the presentation tonight, again, we kind of selected an approach to, because we were going to present an initial cost, and instead of showing kind of the full range, we just focused on the must-do items just to kind of broach the subject. But we agree, future-proofing, making sure that these are, sustainable projects, sustainable facilities that are going to last the test of time. Because again, I think the Fire Station 2 is an excellent example, and consistent with Alderperson Malaki's, comments about, well, that was a must-do, or that was probably not even a must-do. Let's do as little as we can at that point. And it was just, it's lasted 30 years, but it's time for something.
Yeah, but now it's got to be torn down rather than renovated.
Correct.
So, again, more looking forward than backwards on that one. But thank you for the great presentation, and that's all my comments for now. I'll yield the floor.
Alderperson Furnish.
I just had one quick question. You gave all the square footage and the cost, but the West Side City Hall, do you have what size you would want to build over there and what that cost would be?
20,000.
We were showing a 20,000 square foot addition to the west side. I don't have the breakout of what that addition would be. It'd be approximately $15 to $20 million.
Okay.
Just based on the little matrix I've got.
Okay.
But we have all those numbers.
Okay.
Trying to find a best way to summarize all the data is always fun. So working closely on the heels of these comments and input, we'll be able to provide any summary that's requested by council or staff.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else who's not yet spoken? Alderperson Kilberg.
Right. I understand tonight we're talking about the master plan in its totality and all the elements that would make up the master plan. I guess my question would center around the prior referendum and the way that it was prioritized with the police station, obviously, which I think is their unanimous support for that being the #1 project. I guess my question is, if we were to go to referendum next year, is there a reason why any of these projects would leapfrog the other element of that proposed referendum, which was Fire Station 2? And the funding and the fact that it was related to public safety. So if we're looking at what a conceivable referendum might be next year, what has changed where it wouldn't be the police station and the fire station #2?
Want me to address that?
Yes, please.
So that question, while a good, valid question, is not in the bailiwick of Dave's facility master plan, so he can't actually answer that. So that's why what we're trying to do is adopt the plan, so that the next step is so that you can all have that conversation and we can talk about what the true priority is based on the cost, and probably do some more community engagement. So the reason fire station was actually #3 in the priorities, but because of the way the referendum question had to be written, that's why Fire Station 2 moved up to 2. But I think, again, we almost have to restart all of those conversations with the updated plan and with the updated numbers.
But they're all of it is still, will be a part of the master plan.
Correct.
So is there, okay, I guess we are not going to talk about prioritizing anything tonight. Is that?
That's correct.
Correct.
Tonight, they're just bringing you recommendations of what your preferred options are for each facility within the master
Yeah,
plan.
and perhaps by starting the conversation with the question about prioritizing police, maybe through that topic off a little bit. We
Yeah, I mean,
appreciate
we're
that
talking
discussion.
about that
Right.
being the priority. What's the second priority then?
Right, and that's where, the implementation strategy, with a little bit more information now about the referendum process and what projects can get bundled into a referendum, is important information to have as you work through your priorities as a team. And so the master plan focusing on what should be done, and then the next step after adoption would be, okay, how are we going to do it? And it's prioritizing and bundling based on the information that you have contained in the plan.
So tonight, we're not going to talk about any changes as it relates to the bonding potential.
Correct.
For any of these projects?
Correct.
Okay.
That'll come after adoption.
So in other words, safety won't necessarily, may or may not be a consideration as we look forward,
Well, safety will, but not necessarily,
as far as related to bonding, and the
related to
limitations as it
bonding,
relates to
that's-
bonding.
So again, I think,
Yeah,
I'm happy to answer it. I just, it's the second part of the conversation. But what we were told by the bond council is we couldn't commingle because we were building new and not just renovating. Because you're building new, then we lumped it as public safety, which allowed us to be able to bring forward fire station number 2 based upon the dollars at the time we were talking. As we know, those are not correct, so that's why we are trying to get the plan. Now that the conversation was already out in the public, we want to get the plan in the public, and then we can restart those conversations.
Okay, fair enough. I think we've made an investment in consulting as it relates to referendum.
Mhm.
And I think that should be a helpful tool.
Very much.
As this process moves forward. And I don't think anything has really deviated all that much in Geneva over the last 6 months since the proposed referendum. So I think that there should be a lot of credibility associated with the information that we already have in hand. So, no, I think the master plan and what you brought forward tonight is very helpful. And what year did we talk about this over here?
We kicked this
Was
off
that in
about
22?
23 is when we kicked
23,
it off.
okay. Anyhow, I'm glad that we're at this point. Obviously, there's a lot of dollars involved in what we're looking at, this comprehensive plan, and the way that the priorities will fall out, that will be decided at a later date. But again, this information is useful, but I think we need to develop phases as it relates to how we envision these other areas that may not get addressed in an initial bond issue, how they might fall out, and what the time frame might be as to when the council and the community brings those back for the citizens to vote. Is this going to span 5 years or 10 years? Conceivably, it could be a 10-year plan.
Right. And those who may recall a presentation we made about a year ago, we had shown kind of a 10-year implementation plan. And that's where that kind of $130 million gets spread out over 10 years, and you see it growing towards the high 100s, and we probably had a scenario that jumped into 200 million.
But I think it's important for the community to know and see a plan like you're proposing here, how things will fall into place, and that certain elements aren't being ignored, that they are just a little later down the road. So, again, thank you. I appreciate all your work, and your work as well, Lee. Thank you. Because you put the numbers together, right?
Yes.
Alderperson Reinecke, then I'll recognize alderpersons who have asked to speak for a second time.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Comprehensive, thoughtful, well done. It seems to me there's a consensus emerging here. A number of points. First, all 4 components of this plan seem worthy of pursuing. The second is that the police station has emerged as the priority. That's A on the list. The third is the hybrid city hall. There's a consensus there. I would agree with that entirely. As soon as you said it, I was on with that one. And the finally is that it would be helpful to partition later, at a later point, the components and how they are funded so that it doesn't come as an amalgam plan. With Alderperson Maliki, I agree entirely about the value of looking at that spreadsheet and the ways in which, how would you put it, that which is needed is distinguished from that which is simply desirable. And then that comes to the question of how do we parse out what's going to be needed 5, 10, 15 years down the line. But looking at that spreadsheet is going to be very, very helpful to all of us. Anyway, that's my comments. Thank you.
In this order, for alderpersons who have asked to speak a second time, it'd be Alderperson Mayor, Alderperson Marks, Alderperson Maliki.
I wanted to address what Alderperson Maliki was speaking to. I think that it's evident that we will end up coursing towards one project at a time, possibly, but I think also there's if we don't do this, then what do we have to do to make do? So if it's on the need list, if it's a priority and needed, and we say we're not going to do it, then what do we need to do to make it right? Because there is a cost. Like, there is a cost to continue here and not fix the accessibility problem. We should probably do that regardless of anything. We should do something over there to make this building accessible. So that was number one. Number two, I wanted to ask, what is the deliverable of this master plan? Like, is it an actual document, or?
It is an actual document, about yay thick. Kind of the results of tonight's meeting is going to dictate kind of the final deliverable. It had a slightly different flavor to it. Oh, you got that thick. Based on the comments from tonight, it's going to refine the deliverable a little bit, because again, so it'll be a document with the backup. Your comments tonight are helping us to refine the summaries that we'll provide. And again, I'll work with Ms. Hawkins just to make sure that we give it to you in enough time, or if we're going to submit it as a draft for review, or what the next formal step is for you guys to see it. So if there's additional information or refinements that you want before adoption, that we can incorporate that.
Yeah, and I would encourage my fellow council members to accept summaries. I don't think that there's any value in us digging into the weeds here. I would love to. It would be great. I would take my time off and use it to do that. But I think that we have to rely on the professionalism of people that we've hired to do that. And that if you guys could give us great summaries of your data, that would be fantastic and appreciated. And I also agree about the comparison to the St. Charles Firehouse or police station being very critical to the community, because I think it's a super public information that everybody has, and they're all going, what the heck, Geneva? So I think that comparison is going to be very important to us for a plethora of reasons. Did you want to jump in?
You can finish. I just wanted to make a comment about the summaries piece.
Okay.
So
go ahead.
So I just wanted to mention to everyone, I'm Lee McMillan, by the way, from Leopardo. When you adopt this plan, you are not hemming yourself in to this final decisions in terms of must do, should do, would like to do, nice to do. Those are decisions that you still have the opportunity to make during the implementation phases of each of the projects. So I just want to make sure people understand that. You are not locking yourself into anything other than the general direction that you want to head. So when you talk about the specifics, I just wanted to address that particularly. Like, you don't have to worry. If you decide you want to move forward and go forward with a referendum, and you want to go forward with the police station, you still have opportunities to decide what is the scope that goes into that project. You're not locking yourself into something with this plan. So I just want to make sure people understood that.
Thanks, Lee. And maybe just, like, those are the three main categories. Within each of those categories, there's 20 line items that could move between those two categories or move between three categories. So the matrix is large, and the cost associated with every one of those decisions is large. That's why trying to bring kind of a consolidated message is sometimes challenging, but hopefully the report gets you that level. For some in this room, we did do the, meetings, individual meetings, and did get into the weeds with some of these to, make sure, build that trust and that understanding of these aren't just darts at a dartboard. There's extensive study and data supporting these, these numbers and the decisions to move forward.
Thank you for that. That's just what I wanted to hear. I wanted to make my position clear about the library. I didn't actually say what I thought about saving the library, and I think that it's very important to our community, and I've pressed for it since the beginning, I think. The reading room in particular that was part of the historic structure, I think is a special community space for Geneva, that even though we have a new fantastic library, the memories of people that come back to Geneva, that grew up here, that remember the town, that is a place where everybody remembers going, seeing people reading the newspaper, all of those things in front of the fireplace. So I'm very clearly on board with saving that space of the library, and I think it's better for modernization to build a new extension between the two. And I hope we can go that direction. The other thing I wanted to ask about was, you mentioned no indoor parking for the police, but there is an indoor sally port. That's what it's called, right, Chief?
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Wow. The sally port is not a parking space. It's a operational place. It's where you pull in with your squad vehicle to bring a visitor to the police station insecurely.
Yes, and it's one of the big deficiencies of our current situation.
It's the current one, right, a traditional, the right size sally port is 2 bays, sized large enough to accommodate an ambulance, because some of our visitors come in fancy trucks. And so right now, you're basically pulling into a garage space, and then you need to back out, and the ambulances do not fit in the current sally port. So it's a fundamental operational deficiency of the existing police station that would be hard to redo or create an addition within that existing parking lot to support that. Just other things with the existing space too. And again, this would be in the report, but there's no secure parking for police vehicles. They're intermingled with their staff vehicles and other visitors to the hotel and commercial property. So just the site itself, and even its proximity downtown, makes it challenging to perform their duties.
Thank you. The last thing I have is, with the firing range and some of the other interest in fixing things and making things the right size, I wonder if there's a way, especially in light of what Alderperson Kasserag mentioned, that we can plan for the future. We're 22,000 right now-ish, and I could see Geneva becoming a town of 30,000, so how does that change what we need, and is there a way that we can leave a side open for that firing range in the future expansion, and show how to do a quick remodel for the firehouse too, something like that? Although I really do think we're going to end up tearing it down and redoing the whole thing.
It would be highly recommended.
Yeah,
and again, we're not saying that, arbitrarily or, without forethought. It's just very challenging. And the report will go into more detail what those challenges are, but it's just really deemed unfeasible to renovate that existing facility.
It doesn't work, right?
It doesn't work, and B, in order to do so, you'd have to take that station offline, and one of the overarching goals is to make sure that we maintain services throughout. So it would be a challenge for up to a year to renovate that facility while still maintaining a high level of responsiveness for the fire department.
Is that part of the reason for the displacement on the site, is to keep the service going while the construction's being done?
It's certainly one of the factors, but the overall deficiencies of the building and the challenges of trying to bring it up to contemporary standards are overwhelming.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much for this. I'm definitely supportive of option, what was it, 4?
Option 4.
Let it be known. Thank you.
Alderperson Marks.
My questions have been answered, Mayor.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Alderperson Malicki.
I appreciate everybody's comments. Lends a lot more clarity to the process here tonight. I have a feeling as we keep talking about things that if we are talking about, a facilities master plan, which could be a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan, depending on what happens. I guess my only just quick comment is when it comes down to the actual facilities themselves and the needs of the departments and staff and the services that our residents are going to receive, there's a lot more, at this point, I think there's a lot more hypotheticals involved with actual hard costs and all that sort of stuff. And to me, that muddies the waters, which is what which is where my comments were directed at earlier. I guess I think I would like to see us have the master plan should have some of the things that we're going to probably need, and if we can get there in the implementation plan, great. If it's going to take more time or more funds or go through different exercises to get there, then so be it. But I guess I just wanted to offer that comment up. So
Appreciate that.
if that helps or not, I don't know.
It does, thank you.
Alderperson Kilbert.
One last thought or a question that maybe you have had experience with. Have you experienced any public-private partnership as related to public facilities at all? In other words, I guess I'm thinking about the library site and the fact that would there be a developer that would be interested in working with the city in the development of the site and then creating housing in the downtown for us? I mean, have you had any possible experiences where a 2 or 3 story building might be built with apartments or townhomes on the 2nd and 3rd level? Sounds like we have an authority on that.
We have kind of a mostly yes experience. It might not be a direct answer, but it's what our teams together worked with the Village of Downers Grove on slightly similar scenario. In that Downers Grove has a downtown site. It used to be a lumber yard, and they converted it to a city hall. And they had an older police station that faced similar challenges. And as we worked with them on several options to redevelop that site, we built new while maintaining the existing facilities. And then because of the efficiencies of the new building compared to the older spaces, they actually carved out approximately 2 acre site in between the new municipal complex and their existing public works facility. And that was sold to a developer then that helped fund that overall project. That's something similar to what was kind of mentioned with the police department site. If that site becomes vacant, that's a fairly large parcel and obviously highly desirable here in downtown. And that option, more so than maybe developing something with the library or the funds from that development, would certainly help to offset costs for this City Hall library redevelopment.
So there is history of private-public cooperation on
Absolutely.
Municipal facilities.
Yes, but what I've seen it more in kind of a higher ed scenario where you've got a revenue stream like public P3s, public-private partnership for like housing, or I'm even seeing it now in classroom buildings where there's some sort of revenue stream tied to that development so that's paying for it. With a municipal development, it's a little bit more challenging for the redevelopment portion, but if you can sell the site and use that funds to help support your redevelopment, that's where we're seeing it more.
Okay.
I would just add that that's the difference between the P3 versus just more like a land swap type situation.
Right.
P3s are not as common here in Illinois. They're very common in like Canada and even in even Indiana, Ohio. We see more P3s. It just hasn't been as common here in the Chicago metro area. But what Dave just described is what we're typically seeing is villages looking at ways, or cities, at how they can basically consolidate onto smaller square footage and then sell the property. Right. It's usually moving people that don't need to be in a prime time location to a different location.
I think you've answered my question, though. Thank you. That was helpful.
Thanks, Lee.
Anyone else from the dais? Alderperson Bowering.
Just very briefly, I guess I wanted to weigh in support of what Alderperson Mayer said. I think, given cost constraints, we're not likely to ever get everything on our desired list, but I think to the extent, and again, I really think this is like it way down in the implementation phase, but I think it's great that we are having this in front of mind, that for things that we can't realistically fund at this point, that we keep in mind a plan or a path to do them, if and when we can. I think there's just always that hard edge between what would be the most cost efficient in the very long run and what you can actually provide funds for. So I guess I think it is really positive that we're thinking along those lines, not just what's going to meet our needs right now, but what is going to continue to be adaptable to our future needs, some of which we might be able to predict and some of which we frankly probably can't. Along those lines, and I'm really going off topic now, so Stephanie, you'll cut me off in a second, just continuing to think about and plan for increased capital investments so that we don't hopefully get kind of as far behind in maintaining, particularly a lot of these MEPs, as it seems like we have, where again, there were legitimate concerns that the city was facing and whatnot, but then all of a sudden it's a really big price tag, and that's, I think, hard for all of us and certainly hard for the residents as well. So,
we appreciate that. It's deferred maintenance is a challenging issue because you're trying to obviously maintain low-cost operations to support the city and do the best for your residents. But when things start to pile up like this, it does make it very challenging. And again, the age of existing facilities, the master plan's a hybrid, right? You've got facilities that need renovations, and those can be done over phases, but you do need new facilities. And that's where we're kind of having that challenge. And so I appreciate the feedback, and we're going to work this into the report about if we can't get to something in these next 5 to 10 years, here's what you need to do at a bare minimum just to make sure that spaces are safe, comfortable, and accessible.
Alderperson Kosarog from the movie Heaven Can Wait. Any comments from you, sir?
Wow, good reference.
Isn't that a good reference?
Yeah.
I'm all good. Thanks, Mayor.
You're all good. Thank you. Stephanie, I'm going to ask the city administrator to perhaps affirm what you understand the direction to be on this master plan. And then I will ask the special committee of the whole if they concur.
Yeah, so what I heard was that a lot of support in having a facilities master plan, and I think the biggest direction we were looking for had to do with the city hall library, and the recommendation that overwhelmingly has come out is option 4, which is that preserving the 4,000 square foot historic portion and building a connector building. All the rest, I think you all you understand where we're going and what the steps in that process are. What I would say is we are planning to bring this back on the 7th. I'll talk to Dave. It may come back the second meeting in July, just to ensure that we have everything that we need, because in order to come back on the 7th, I would need it by next Wednesday. So the reality is we might be looking at this. We might be looking at this at the second meeting in July, but that would also allow us to maybe get the draft out in advance of the packet so you all would be able to see it. So I think Dave, I think what we need to hear, I want to make sure that you did as well.
Do you want to form a vote on this or no?
We don't need a, no.
Okay, good. Anyone else? Questions or comments before we let Dave and Lee and the whole team, because we expect this tomorrow.
Of course.
Of course. Yeah. You can work here. You can work here tonight. It's very comfortable. Anyone else? Anything at all?
Did I earn the treat? Thank you so much for your time this night.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. Yeah, what the heck? Let's do it. I'll do that. Public comment? Anyone joining us this evening? Any comments for the benefit of the council and the community? Your chance to speak, our chance to listen. New business from the dais. Anyone? New business? I will entertain a motion to adjourn from somebody present in this room. Motion by
darn
Alderperson
it.
Marks. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. We're adjourned, folks. Thank you all very much.